Hey everyone, I'm Julie from The Crafty Quilter, and today I am super excited to show you how to make these quick and easy fabric origami bags. You're gonna love it. The supplies that you'll need to make one bag is 2 fabric squares that are cut to 15.5 inches, some coordinating thread, and some ribbon that is 3/8 of an inch wide or 1/4 inch wide. You'll need about 1.5 yards. I recommend that you starch your fabric and press it really well before you get started. It's going to help you to control your piece as we work with it. And you want to start with your 2 fabric squares right sides together. Line them up so the raw edges are even and pin it all the way around. And then you're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam on all 4 sides. You're going to leave about a 3 to 4 inch opening on one side. When you get to a corner, you're going to stop with your needle down and pivot and continue all the way around. So I have one here that has been sewn on all 4 sides. And I've got an opening right here to turn it right side out. Before I turn it right side out, I want to clip the corners to reduce the bulk. And to do that, I just snip straight across and make sure you don't get too close to the stitching there so you don't poke any holes in your corners. And we'll do that all the way around. And then we're gonna just reach in and turn it right side out. I've pressed my fabric squares, and I also turned under that 1/4 inch where the opening was and just pressed that so that it lays nice and straight across one edge. And now we're going to top stitch that. I'm going to stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the edges using my matching thread, and my stitch length is going to be about a 2.5. And as we stitch it, we're also going to be stitching that opening closed. I have my fabric square so that the contrasting side is facing up. This is the side that you're not going to see a whole lot of. And we're going to be folding this square into thirds, and I'm going to be taking the corner and folding it in towards the middle and doing the same thing with the other corner. And this is where it's kind of important to get everything just right. So one of the reasons I started with a 15.5 inches square, once I've sewn the 1/4 inch seam, I'm left with a 15 inch square, and that's easily divisible by 3. So 15 divided by 3 gives me 5. So I have a square ruler, and I'm going to put the 5 inches of that ruler on my edges here on the corner, on this corner. And that's where I'm going to fold my fabric so that it's folding right up to the edge of where my ruler is. And it should be running parallel to the edge here. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the other corner. So I'm going to place it down here. The 5 inches of the ruler is going to get placed onto the edge of my fabric. And I'm going to fold this fabric up to the other side. And now these open squares that you see here, they should both measure 5 inches. So you can, if you don't have a square ruler, you could always use a, well, I've got a gridded mat here. I could use that to measure with. You could use a tape measure, whatever works for you. But I'm going to place this down here and make sure that I've got 5 inches here, and it all lines up, and then 5 inches over here. So if I were working with a larger square, let's say an 18 inch square, then I would have a 6 inch opening right here on both sides. Same thing, I could do a 12 inch square. So you can change the size of these bags. So now I've got this folded, and I'm going to take it to my ironing board and press it, and I'll be right back. Now we're going to create the base of our pouch, and I'm laying this on my mat so that the corner here is sitting right on one of the lines of the grid on my mat. And I'm going to stitch from that center 1 inch on each side. So this is going to determine how wide the base of my pouch is. So here is the same size pouch, and I've sewn 1 inch on each side of the center, so that gives me a 2 inch wide base. Here's another pouch that I did that's 1.5 inches from the center, and this gives me a 3 inch wide base. So this is what's going to determine how wide your pouch is. I'm going to take my ruler and I am going to place it so that I'm 1 inch from the center, and I'm going to draw a line from edge to edge. And I'm using a friction pen to do this. It will erase with heat. You could use a chalk pencil, whatever you have. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side of the center line, 1 inch on that side. I'm going to draw a line here. And we're going to be stitching right on top of these lines that we draw. So I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and stitch those in. Here are my seams stitched in there. And the next step is to fold this in half this way. And at this point, these edges should line up just right. And we're going to stitch on this side and this side 1/8 of an inch in from the edges. I'm going to back stitch at the beginning here and at the end. And when you fold this in half, the stitching lines that you made earlier should be matching up right here. If not, it's not the end of the world, but that's ideally what we want to have happen. So we're going to stitch this up and then go on to the next part. When I'm sewing these side seams, I like to use these clips because there's a lot of thicknesses here. I'm also using just a regular presser foot, not a walking foot, and it works just fine without a walking foot. I want to start at this top edge and sew down to the bottom, and I also want to back stitch up here. I'm going to start inside, or I should say down, about 1/4 of an inch, and then I'm going to go in reverse. So I'm starting below where I want to go, where I want to be. I'm going to back up and make sure that you're about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. So I'm going to go in reverse to the very edge and then go forward. And the reason I did that is just so that my starting thread is going to be down at a little bit from the edge, and when I clip it, those threads will be a little bit more hidden. And I'm going to sew all the way down to the bottom here and back stitch at the end as well. And then we'll do the same thing for the other side. All right, now I want to reach into my bag or my pouch, and I want to fold the bottom corner here. I'm going to fold it down so it forms a point. So this side seam should be along the center of the bottom here. And if you can see, let me get this so it's nice and flat and straight. So I've got this little triangle, and my stitching from the previous time where we stitched 1 inch from the center on both sides, we're going to stitch right across that same stitching line here and on this other corner as well. And this is going to also form the base of our pouch so that it can sit flat. So let's take this to the sewing machine and we're almost done. Okay, we're going to sew straight across this point. I'm going to sew on to this. I'm going to back stitch. And I'm going right on top of my previous stitches, going right across that center or side seam, and then back stitch at this end. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay, you guys, now for the fun part. I don't know if you can see the stitching there, but you should see something that resembles a rectangle on the bottom. And I've got these little corner ears. And we're gonna turn this right side out. So we're just gonna reach in there, take it right side out, and use your hands to get into the corners here and push it out in the corners. And now we've got our pouch that looks like this, and all we're going to do is fold these points, these corners down, and our bag is almost done. How cute is that? So next I want to press the edge here, and then we are going to stitch about 5/8 of an inch from that folded edge. You can even do a little edge stitch right at the fold, and then from there do about a 1/2 inch down from that edge stitching. It depends on how wide your ribbon is. My ribbon is 3/8 of an inch wide, so I want to form a casing that's about a half of an inch. So that's going to be my next step. First I'm going to press this, and then I'm going to do the stitching for the casing. For this seam here, the casing seam or stitching, I'm going to stitch all the way around in a circle. I'm starting at the side seam, and I'm just going through all the thicknesses here, and this is about 5/8 of an inch from the edge, from the folded edge. Let's see, right about there. Okay, and you can back stitch there, or you can just go over your stitches when you come back to the beginning, and we'll go all the way around again. Across the sides here, just go straight on through. Okay, the last thing we're going to do is add our cording or our ribbon for our pouch. You can do this a couple of ways. Let me show you some options. If you have just one long piece of ribbon, you can string it through all the way around, and then you would just tighten this up and form a little bow here to cinch it up. This, by the way, this pouch, I added a lightweight fusible interfacing, so it's a little stiffer. It stands up on its own much more easier than the other bags, so that's an option for you if you wanted to do that. Let me show you another way to close your pouch. If you've got two pieces of ribbon and you can thread them through differently. I'm going to show you that in just a second, but you just pull on these two edges and it cinches up that way. It's super, super cute. And so let me show you how I did that. I doubled the width of my pouch. So this is 7 inches wide, times 2 is 14. And then I added about 7 inches to that, actually 8 inches. So I've got two pieces of ribbon that are 17, let's see. We'll do the math later. Anyways, I have two pieces of ribbon, and I'm going to use this is called a ballpoint bodkin, or you could use just a safety pin, but we're going to thread the ribbon through. So let me take this down here so I can show you better. Okay, I've got my ballpoint bodkin and my ribbon is attached to it with a safety pin, and I'm going to thread that through this little opening here. So this goes in first, and then my ribbon will follow, and it pops out the other side. All the way through, and then I'll just bring it through this side now. Okay, so looks like this. Then I'm going to take the other ribbon and thread it through, let's see, from this side. So we're going to thread through this way, wrap it around, and it's going to pop out. Both ends will pop out on this side. Okay, now I can take these two sides and knot them together. So I just pinch them. Let's see, we don't want them to get, I don't want them to get twisted as I do this, but I'm just gonna hold it like this and create a knot on this end. And then we'll do the same thing on this side. Our pouch is finished and it is just so cute. This is what it looks like on the inside. And here on the outside, you've got these little little pocket areas here. You could actually maybe store something in there as well. These make great gifts. You can just pull that up and cinch it tight. This is what the 15-inch square ends up to be. Just for your reference, this is the larger, this is an 18-inch square, 18.5-inch square, and it's a little bit bigger. On this one, I added a little button right here, just a cute little detail that you can do as well. On this bag, I lifted the corner up, the little triangle up, and then I put the button in that way. And let's see, this is another cute little one. This is also a 15-inch square starting size. And then this is the same 15-inch square, but has the wider base on it. So I'm so glad you guys stopped by to watch this video today and have fun making your fabric origami pouches.